What's the relationship between humans and their environment? For some authors, it's a very simple one. The environment determines human behaviour, and as such determines what states can and cannot do. From this, we can predict the future of war and peace. One such author who takes this view is this chap, Robert Kaplan, appearing here on CNN's Fareed Zakaria GPS. I've had difficulty getting copyright release for these television news images, so throughout the course I'll be replacing them with Lego people. Anyway, Zakaria says to Kaplan, "You're going to explain to me why Iran really is the pivot of the Middle East in your opinion." To which Kaplan responds, "Egypt does have a geographical logic because of the Nile Valley. Libya is a vague geographical expression." What Kaplan is engaging in here is what's known as geographical determinism. It's taking a single geospatial factor and using it to explain practically everything about a country. As a little bit of background on Kaplan, here's one of his books, The Revenge of Geography, What the Map Tells Us About Coming Conflicts and the Battle Against Fate. Let's break down that book title, The Revenge of Geography. This suggests that geography had gone away and is now coming back. I'm not sure where it had gone. It also suggests that geography is angry with someone, as geography is going to seek its revenge. Does geography have agency? If it does, who's it annoyed with? Then the subtitle, What the Map Tells Us About Coming Conflicts and the Battle Against Fate. There's a lot going on here. First, the map. Kaplan is conflating geography with maps. Maps created by cartographers are just one small part of geography. It's an enormous mistake to view the words geography and map as synonymous. We'll look at this in the course through the lens of critical cartography. But I'll argue that while we need to be exceptionally careful in how we create and use maps, we still need to use them for conflict analysis. Next, coming conflicts and the battle against fate. Fate is a word that really should not be used in academic discourse. Aside from its religious overtones, it's suggesting that there is a future which is not only predictable, but also unavoidable. If future events are predictable and unavoidable, we should give up our careers as academics and instead become fortune tellers. Also, coming conflicts and battle, the future is grim. While we can't predict the future, what we can say is that based on current trends, conflict is currently declining. The future may not be as grim as Kaplan is suggesting. Now, let's have a look at the comments on the front. They come from Melise Ruthven in the New York Review of Books. Ruthven's language is rather more careful and nuanced than the title of Kaplan's book. It has been the planet's geophysical configurations, as much as the flow of competing religions and ideologies, that have shaped human conflicts past and present. The term geophysical configurations is rather more precise than geography and doesn't mix up geography with map. It's inherently multivariate, mentioning religion and ideology. It isn't just reducing politics to one factor, and shaped human conflicts past and present. No attempt here to make reference to coming conflicts, and the use of shaped is rather good. Lots of things shape the world. But the publishers of Kaplan's book managed to get Henry Kissinger to read a copy. And as any sensible book publisher knows, if Henry Kissinger reviews a book, then you reissue that book with Henry Kissinger's name on the front. Robert Kaplan's fascinating, prodigiously researched and important new book shines light on an ancient truth. Geography has been the predominant factor in determining the fate of nations, from pharaonic Egypt to the Arab Spring. Oh boy. An ancient truth. Truth is something which is known only to gods and journalists. The rest of us should stay away from it. That geography has been the predominant factor in determining the fate of nations. What's meant by geography here? Geography is determining. That seems to be pretty clear geographical determinism. Fate. Is the future then unavoidable? Kaplan himself says that he's not a geographical determinist. Yet it's hard to reconcile this with the words in his book. He refers to the dictates of geography on pages 35, 44, 58, 69, 104, 172 and 174. On page 28 he tells us, geography is the backdrop to human history itself. It can be as revealing about a government's long-range intentions as its secret counsels. Page 32. He tells us geography has helped sustain American prosperity and may ultimately be responsible for America's pan-humanistic altruism. Ooh. On page 44, and thus Europe developed because of a geography that was difficult in which to live. Page 104, geography is unchangeable. Also on page 104, geography helped dictate a containment strategy against the Soviet Union. Page 171, geography commands a perennially tense relationship between Russia and China. Page 206, India and China are destined by geography to be rivals. Page 237, geography has determined that the Indian subcontinent in the northwest is less a fixed frontier than an interminable series of gradations. Page 245, Afghanistan is in terms of geography barely a country at all. Page 280, geography dictates that Iran will be pivotal to the trend lines in the Greater Middle East and Eurasia. I could go on, but I'd end up reading out the whole book. Bottom line here. Researchers who've looked beyond 19th century geography do not make these mistakes. I want to make sure that you don't make those mistakes either. Some of the authors that receive a lot of attention in Kaplan's work are Mackinder, Morgenthau and Huntington, and we'll look at these. But even Morgenthau wasn't as geographically determinist as Kaplan. He said, geopolitics is a pseudoscience, erecting the factor of geography into an absolute that is supposed to determine the power and hence the fate of nations. Geopolitics, as presented in the writings of Mackinder, has given a valid picture of one aspect of the reality of national power, a picture seen from the exclusive and therefore distorting angle of geography. I'll come back to the notion of geopolitics as a pseudoscience throughout the course. For now, I'll say this. Geographical determinism is both dangerous and naive. There are alternative ways to explain the relationship between humans and their environment. I'll present some of them in the next session.